did they say? You live by the sword, you die by the sword. Maybe you live by getting second all the time, maybe first. And then carnage happens. That's what we have. Stage 5 today. Tour de France. This is Between Two Wheels podcast. Tyler Yonke coming to you from my swanky office. Been to court, so I thought I would post this out. Get some excitement going on. It was an exciting day. I was able to at least see most of it. Wow, that's all I have to say. So I joined in early on. Maybe we should look at the stage itself first, right? Take a look at the route, everything we have going on here. Let's check this up on the screen. Hope everyone's doing good today. There we go. So the stage 219.9. That's tomorrow. That's 157 kilometers. They said hilly on here, and you even said that on the description. On the Peacock, which I didn't watch it on there. Oh, I watched it on there, and then I listened to it, kind of sync the two up with GCN because I just really prefer the GCN coverage. 157 kilometers. We had 11 sections of cobbles going in there. Early on, I joined in, and I saw some carnage already happening with Wout taking a wreck. It looked like he was just, I don't know if he was paying attention well, but he had dropped back for some food. And then once he got that food, he was coming back up, and next thing you know, he and Kreuzwick are on the ground. He's got to do a little bit of chase. It seems like it's probably fine, although later on he kind of popped off the group at an important time, and we'll walk our way through that. So what I want to look at first is, probably didn't want to do that, is to take a look at the GC before the stage even starts. So let's look at the results of stage 4. We talked about this yesterday, but I think it's important to, at least for today, because there we go. Maybe a little bit better way to look at it. Wout, he's up 25 seconds behind his Yves Lampert, and then Tadej Pogačar at 36 seconds to Mads. And really what I want to look at here, Roglic, 41. Okay, you're all the same stuff here. But we talked about today, Nilsen Palace being the virtual leader. So he's 113 up. Now, there was some bad math being done as he came across the line and some of the people there, because he's at 113 and Pogačar's at 32. So I think he had 41 seconds or so he needed to get across, or a little less than that to get ahead of Pogačar in the end. Am I spoiling it? Probably. But anyway, we just wanted to take a look at that. Here's the profile for the last stage for today's. As you can see, it's not really what I would call hilly. Okay, it's not a hilly one, but you throw the cobblestones in there, and it kind of makes itself as if it's a hilly type of race. So started off, everything's looking pretty good. I took a few notes here. Maybe we'll just read them off because I think that'll be most helpful. Early break, Magnus Cort and Palace get in there. Simon Clark, their former teammate, also makes the break. Wout crash at around 93. Mathieu van der Poel looks like he has no legs. You know what? We're gonna break off of this. We're going to go and pull up. What we've been doing is trying to. There we go. We will look at the screen here, do a full breakdown of the race from the GCN highlights, but we're just going to tap through once again so we don't get caught in here. They do a little overview of this is the carnage. I mean, what we have here. You get the break off. Nilsen Palace is up there. You had one other rider, the Stana rider. I think he ends up coming out. Or no, he was Israel. No, B&H. I don't know. I don't know about that one. But Magnus Cort, Edwin Bosenhagen, Taco van der Horn, Simon Clark, those 2, 3, 4, 5 riders are the ones that end up sticking the break for the most part. Okay, the seminal and the important parts of this break are those gentlemen. Magnus Cort, you've seen him day after day after day being up in the breaks for getting the King of the Mountain jersey. There's no KOM for this stage at all, but he's like, I'm going to get in there. Matter of fact, he gets in the break early. Then Simon Clark and Palace, and I'm not sure if that other French guy are the ones that end up gapping or bridging up to them. Takes them a while, but Simon Clark heads out somewhere around 140 or so K into the 150 some kilometer stage. You had, this is a little recap of yesterday's Red Bull win, and Wout van Aert once again gets the win there, as we talked about. Today we're looking for Mathieu van der Poel and a Wout clash. There's also some speculation as how the UAE is going to be for Pogačar. well, there's the stage. We already talked about that. Starts out early. There's the Wout crash. They tried to go over this road furniture. He and Kreuzwick get mixed up in it. He almost then hits this DSM car. We'll just play this a little bit right here. Whoa, almost hits it. I don't know. It seemed like he had a lack of focus early on. Maybe that was part of the problem. Then he ends up making his way back up to the group. Here we go. The Pave sectors started in 11, somewhere around 77K, I guess, where they hit the first one. I was pretty impressed all day with the front group and Nilsson Palace and Magnus Court. And Simon Clark used to be their road captain for EF, so not shy about at least those three riding together. Good weather. Alberto Bettiol, we can talk about him a bit because he's here on the front. He's hammering away, 73 kilometers to go. There's a 309 gap to the two guys up front. Why are you on the front drilling it? And he drills it through this whole section. Now, later on, he does this. Now, 3 minutes, you're like, okay, maybe not that big a deal. Later on, he does this again, but when the gap is just barely over a minute, somewhere around, I want to say 20K to go. Much more, I don't know. I just got a message from Brian Zimney saying, has a rider ever been kicked out of the tour for not obeying orders? Now, I don't know about the tour, probably. But first one that came to mind was Warren Barguil in the 2017 Vuelta. He got kicked out of that race. He was sent home for not obeying team orders. So it can definitely happen. Is it going to happen to Bettiol here? I don't know. I don't know, Brian, if that was actually the race you were thinking, or the rider you were thinking of, or someone else. But Bettiol's work here, he goes to the front, he hammers up there, he looks behind him. This is a 70, so okay. Pogacar's on his wheel. He gives him a nice little bear hug. It's kind of a pat on the back. And you're like, okay. Then later on, he does it again, which ends up spurring kind of the attack that Pogacar ends up having here. Ben O'Connor is an early, I don't know if he got dropped or if he had a mechanical, but he comes off with like 40 some K to go. His team drops back for the most part to help him up. He never does catch back. As you can see, it's pretty windy. Matthew van der Poel had bad legs. I don't know if he had any mechanicals, but he definitely had some bad legs. He then had an issue with Jonas gets a flat tire. He grabs Van Hooydonk, I think, his bike, and not the bike. Look at, if you can see here, it's he can't even reach the pedals. So he tries to ride it for a bit. Kreuzwick comes by. He then grabs Kreuzwick's bike. He jumps on it. Kreuzwick tries to have the other bike, and then he's like, screw it. And he sees the team car. So he jumps over there. Team car gets him, and then they're pulling. As this is happening, Wout had a little bit of trouble himself, and he had been off a little bit off the back, and he comes flying through where Jonas is, and he motions him to get on. Now Jonas has to get a new bike, and so there's all these problems. Team is dropping back basically to help pull, and Wout comes. He was basically with the Roglic and Laporte in the very front group, not the break, but the main peloton there, and he decides to pull out of that. Now, at the time, I'm not too happy thinking about this. I'm like, okay, you still have, if he doesn't get up, then why are you drop? You still can have trouble up front with Roglic, and you only have one rider. Why are you sacrificing Wout to go back to Jonas? Is Jonas the main rider? Now, as things play out, it looks like it might have been the way to go. But maybe if Wout is up there, things are playing out a little different, and you don't have this other problem that ends up surfacing later on. Okay, so Wout drops back. He's helping Jonas. They are, as you can see here, now it's a yellow jersey, 227 off of the front group, but 145, the main peloton is off of the front group as well. So you've got 40 some seconds that they've got to be able to make up. And there's a decent sized group there's 4 jumbo guys now, all trying to pace him up. Roglic then ends up, this is where they end up, I don't know if they're showing the wreck here, but Roglic end up having a wreck. They come through this road furniture. The motorbike, I just watched it again. The motorbike actually hits the hay bale that's on the side. When that hay bale hits he's right in front of the riders, and it's Stefan Klung that comes by. He clips the bale of hay as well. It puts out even further in the road, and like 7 or so back, you have Roglic going down hard with Caleb Ewan, who was also up at the front at that time. Those two guys, Roglic then ends up separating his shoulder. He's trying to put it in. You see this group with Wout and Jonas go flying by him. I don't even think because Roglic ended up putting his shoulder back in himself. Later on, he ends up having a few riders with him. Here he is trying to get a sticky bottle, and I don't know which shoulder it was. Maybe they were pulling on it to try to get it unstuck. at the time, though. Then you still got up front Pogačar. He's drilling it, trying to get up to the group at the front, which has about a 113 lead. He's drilling he looks great. He had McNulty till about, 10 kilometers or so to go. And then the front group was continuing on. Once again, they started bringing it down to about a minute or so, and they really hold that somewhat in that range for the next 30K into the finish. It does drip to about 36 seconds at one point and then ends up coming out. This is when you have Stuyven and takes off. Pogačar ends up coming with him. Pogačar looked great. Didn't have to have any babysitting along with him. They end up bringing back Jonas in the end, but 10K to go. The break is now down to 46 seconds with Pogačar. 10.6 here. So if you look at the screen, you see 10.6, and you see Nelson is basically follows up. He just had taken a pole, and these two guys were kind of the ones. You've got Magnus Cort comes off the front here. I don't know if Clark comes in, but somewhere around the whole group, they end up. Let me see, 125. We'll keep talking about this. Okay, well, before we get there, because they're not going to show it here, we'll talk about it from the finish here, which is Jonas. I'm sorry, not Jonas, but Magnus Cort takes a pole for maybe 2 kilometers or so, pretty hard. Comes into the last section at 6.7 kilometers to go. Okay, they have like 52 seconds up on Pogačar and Stuyven at the time. Right when they come into the cobble section, that's when Nilsen Palace takes over, and you can immediately see a thrust of power and surge of speed, which pops Magnus off. Now, Magnus had just done a long pull. This is not what you want. You don't want to get dropped by your own teammate when you've just been pulling really hard. And now he goes to the front and drops you in this cobbled section, which is about a kilometer and a half or so. Nilsen pulls the whole way through, comes out of the cobble section. When Pogačar and Stuyven come out of their cobble, the same section, I think Palace put a second on them. So it was not necessary. Now they're holding the speed. I get it, but you're not, now you're inside 4 or 5 kilometers to go, and you've dumped off your guy, which is Magnus Cort. Now, Magnus ends up staying clear of everybody. Okay, so he ends up the 4th or 5th there for the day. Doesn't get caught, so he still had enough power to do so. The problem you're getting here near the finish is, you start to play team tactics, as far as all the cat and mouse game that these riders can do, which is you're concerned now about the riders catching you for the stage win. But Nilsen was virtual yellow. Remember, he needed a 113. You can see here on the screen with 2K to go, he's got 124 up on Wout. So he's the virtual yellow. Not only that, but there is 3 different time bonuses for first, second, and third. I think 10, 7, 10, 6, and 4 or something like that. So you'd have another thing. So if you don't dump Magnus, you come into the last kilometer or so, he can just drill it as hard as he can, make sure the pace is up, that the cat and mouse doesn't get to be just eliminate everything. Because now who is in there? You got Edwin van Bogenhausen, who can sprint. At least he used to be able to. I don't think he's won a race in like several years. Taco van der Hoorn, he moves pretty good. Simon Clark moves pretty good as well. But, Nilsen Palace did win San Sebastian last year in a sprint bike throw, so he can do fairly decent as well. So what happens? They come into the last kilometer. Nilsen Palace attacks hard on the left-hand side of the road. You can see immediately, at least for me, that it doesn't look like he's getting away. That they're just letting him go, and it doesn't look like he's getting away that fast. So you're like, ooh, that's not so good. And they're not reacting. Take a hard left. There's like 600-800 meters to go, and Nilsen Palace will roll this up through here. And Palace is there. He goes. So he gets caught with 400 some meters to go. You could tell his legs were just shattered. And then you've got Bogenhausen basically having to take the lead here. Taco and Simon Clark end up reeling him in. Van der Hoorn really hits out hard, and in the end, Simon Clark gets a bike throw, gets the win, and 3 seconds back, you end up seeing Nilsen Palace for 4th place. So it wasn't such a great day for EF in the end. Now, my point and thinking here is that let's just finish it off here. You've got Pogačar and Stuyven coming in. They ended up 50 or 49 seconds or so back. The main group then comes in shortly thereafter, just under a minute, somewhere around a minute, 104. Okay. So Palace needed, what would we say, 113 or so and you would have got some time bonuses. He missed out by basically a minute, so he's not in the yellow by about 13 seconds. So look, you play the cat and mouse game for Nilsson. When he comes in there, he's already got rid of Magnus, so he needs to do something to make sure the pace stays up high, so he at least has a chance at yellow. I think at some point he's discarding his chance of getting the stage win over the chance of getting a yellow jersey. I mean, you pick one, pick the other. They're both pretty solid, but he's got to sprint against those other guys. It's probably not as great of a shot. So maybe his thinking is at 1K to go, I'm going to throw it out there. It'll at least keep it up and the pace up. And if I get caught, if I stay out, I win and get both. If I get caught, at least the pace has been high and there's at least a chance to hold on to this yellow jersey. The problem is if he had Magnus, he could have had him doing that work. So all that dispersing of your own teammate with 6 or so kilometers to go wasn't the great way to go. Simon Clark gets the win. Vanderhorn second. Boltenhagen third at 2 seconds. Paulus 4 seconds back, and then Magnus Cort 30 seconds. So Magnus Cort, once again, that would have been very helpful, and I think that was the downfall. Stuyven 51 to Pogacar, Philipsen. Let's take a look. Got Wout stays in the yellow jersey. Paulus second at 13 seconds. Boltenhagen 14 seconds. Pogacar 19 seconds. Yves Lampert at 25. Vinigo 40 seconds at 7th place. Yates. So there you go. They do a breakdown here a little bit for tomorrow. So it will be interesting. I don't think you're going to see Paulus, as an example, get rid of Wout on the climbing tomorrow, but it's got some of this pitchy stuff near the end, and it does have a little finish on the uphill, which we'll take a look at a little bit closer. So there's a chance that Paulus can maybe regain a few time. I don't think it's going to happen unless Wout's actually a little bit injured from today. Other than that, maybe he has a chance of Planche de Belfi, possibly. So let's take a look now at, this was the live stats coming into this morning. Sometimes they put some interesting little tidbits up here. I'm not seeing anything that was interesting from today. No. So we'll look at let's go to the results. Okay, so we've seen this, but I'm gonna break some things down here, and we're gonna see which riders have kind of lost out for today. So obviously Simon Clark, GC, we've seen that as well. The points still with Wout. KOM, Quinn Simmons still down there, youth, and the teams. So let's go through. I'm going to just walk through, not by nation. Well, let's do that first. Let's see how the Americans all fared today. As we know, Nelson Paulus with the 4th place. Brandon McNulty, who stayed in the fray up until about, I want to say, I had it written down here, 18.5K to go. That's when the other two went up the road, and he got stuck off the side of the road, and then just he bailed it in for like 3 minutes down. Jorgensen was up there with him as well. Sepp Kuss loses 4:12. I don't know what his work was on the day, but that's pretty solid for a little guy like him. Quinn Simmons losing more time, 9:24. Kevin Van Marke, 18:32, along with Joe Dombrowski. So only losing 18 minutes on a stage like that. Sometimes you Paris-Roubaix and those guys get time cut. So not bad work for them all there. Okay, let's go to, I want to walk through the stage with the different teams, and we're just going to kind of see where they are. So Ben O'Connor loses 4:12 from the AGR team. He had a teammate up front that lost only a minute, so he was in that front group. I don't know why he didn't come back, but otherwise you had Bob Jungles and Oliver Nason that were with him, and maybe these other guys that helped as well. So bad day for Ben O'Connor. Alpecin, Jesper Philipsen stayed up in that front. They didn't have a GC guy, but their big loser of the day was Matthew Van der Poel, just didn't have the legs. Astana. They lost out. Lusenko loses his 2:59, came in with Brandon McNulty. Joe D, like I said, back there 14 plus minutes or so on the stage. And there you go. B&B Hotels. I don't know that we really care, but they had a few guys up in the front. Oops, we skipped Bahrain. Mahoric was up there. Damiano Caruso and Luis Leon Sanchez finished in that 104 time section. So they did fairly well. Fred Wright back a ways, but Jack Haig losing DNF. So there we have one DNF. Did not see that earlier. So we'll have to see what happened with him. Bora. Schachmann was up there, Conrad, Alexander Vlasov. So Niels Pullet, they did solid work of having all those guys up there. They lost a little bit, 4 or 5 seconds there. It was, we said, to maybe 10 seconds to Pogacar. Not too bad. Cofidis, wall sheet. I saw he had a pretty bad wreck early on. I don't know that bad, but it was fairly early. Guillaume Martin, and end up staying up there. So he didn't lose time. I'm kind of shocked actually about that, but there you go. EF. So they had a fairly good day, but yet disappointing, I would say, as well, right? Paulus is up there. And as far as GC goes, we'll take that over. Rigoberto Urán stayed up front. So 213. Bettiol, 7th. Bettiol on the day ended up losing some time. So I don't know what the riding on the front was all about. Crazy guy. Groupama should have David Gaudu stays up there. Kung did some work. Valentin Madouas and Thibaut Pinot staying up front as well. Didn't see him at all. Now, Ineos, they were losing a bunch of people back with the Jonas group today, but they ended up salvaging that and just losing a little bit of time. But they did not have guys necessarily stick in the front there. So they had Yates, Pidcock, Dan Martinez, and Geraint Thomas all at the 104. He'll deny everything. Who's he? I don't know. Maybe what I was saying that. But the major comment on that, Brian. Let's keep going. Interwanti group back. Taco Vanderhorn, as we know, he was in that front group. They had a few others out there as well, but Christoph, he had a wreck and came out. So Israel gets the win. Fulsang was at the 104, but you had Mike Woods losing 412, Chris Froome 412. I don't know what's up with their team this year. Bettiol. Oh yeah, Bettiol will deny everything. That's what Brian's saying. But I don't know if you caught the early part, Brian, but I showed 2 times. Well, I didn't show, but I spoke about 2 times and then showed it here. One of them was 70K to go. He's on the front drilling it. And that's when he had a little backpack, patted the back of Pogacar. And then obviously we saw what he did right before Pogacar went off, where he brought the gap down from I think it was like 104, almost 10 seconds when he comes through the field, to one of the sections. It's under 50, around 50 seconds at that point. It was detrimental, but it could have been, but it didn't end up being. So Israel, they get the win there. Jumbo, we see what happens here. Wout's obviously the 104. Vinigo stays in there. Laporte, we got Roglic losing 259. Tish Benut stayed with him. Sepp Kuss losing 412. So their whole team didn't do horrible as far as that goes, but they had their work cut out for them all day long. Lotto Soudal, look, Caleb Ewan was looking really good until he went head over heels over Roglic and the hay bale. So a little disappointed. It would have been interesting to see how he would have done. Well, they didn't catch him anyway. So they didn't really, Florian Vermeesch, they didn't really have anybody that I think he was the guy that I saw crash pretty hard on one of the right-hand corners. Enric Mas stayed up front, so he's still in the mix, as well as Jorgensen. Quick Step, Fabio Jakobsen, he ends up coming with the front group. They had 4 guys in that front group: Caneo, Honoré, and Lampart. Arkea Samsic, Quintana. It's always curious to me how he pulls through the cobbles types of stages unscathed. He's done it again. Comes in that 104. Team Bike Exchange, really interested that Michael Matthews loses 9 minutes. I don't know if there was what happened with him, but Luka Mezgec was their best rider with Luke Durbridge on the front. I don't think they didn't really have a GC guy either way. DSM, Roman Bardet ends up staying in that front group, the 104 with Degenkolb and Danese. So he's still in the mix. Kevin Vermaelen, though, the the American in his first tour, losing 18 minutes, total energies. Sagan went down early, or not early, but it was inside the last, I want to say 70K or so. So he lost his chance there. Bosenhagen, obviously, in that front group, almost getting the win. Jasper Stuyven, we saw what he was doing. Mads Pedersen, Trek, Quinn Simmons back a ways, but they don't really have a GC guy. And then the team, Pogacar and McNulty, being able to, Mark Soler, George Bennett, solid work by those guys, not having to really have the big team. So Pogacar, he's your big threat coming on now. So let's take a look at the stages. Stage tomorrow. Like I said, it's got some pitchiness coming up here, going Bichet to Longwy, 219 kilometers, a little bit longer. A Cat 3, a sprint spot in the middle, and then a 4, and then a 3, and then a pitch at the end. Let's see, into Longwy. I don't know if they show the last one, but it's 0.8 of a kilometer. So not long, but it could definitely spur some people on if you've got a Cat 3 climb coming near the finish. So it'll be really interesting to see what they're able to do with that one. Okay. So what's today? Today's Wednesday, I think. I'm trying to figure this out. Today's Wednesday. Thursday, you get that stage, and then Friday is going to be fantastic. I have court on Friday as well, so I'm going to probably miss this one. But Planche de Belfi and that's when you expect Wout to come off. And if it depends on how Nilsson is going here. But the first mountain stage, sometimes you don't have huge problems, but it will be interesting to see if Nilsson's able to even stick around, maybe get a chance to get the yellow jersey. That might be too much. I mean, you get these next 2 days. This is what I love about if you're playing any of these fantasy cycling games or whatever, and you pick like a Pogacar, or you used to pick a Roglic. They don't give away races. They don't give away stages. I expect tomorrow. I'm actually picking Pogacar to win tomorrow on those little punchy things. You have an uphill finish like that. He's going to be game for it. He always wants that. And then Planche de Belfi, unless a break stays away, I could see some damage happening there as well. Maybe Jonas. Seems like it'd be interesting to see how some of these guys come through it. Like today, Paulus just being out in front all day looked impressive on the cobbles. Pogacar was amazing on the cobbles. I mean, is there anything he can't do? It's like the Homer when talking about the donuts. Is there anything they can't do? All right, so that's what we have. Just a quick one for today, folks. Thanks for joining me and my suit and tie. 251 episodes. That was stage 5 into the Arenberg. Got the cobbles over. I know those guys that just hate it. They're upset that they had to do cobbles. But I'm more and more liking it, thinking that it's a way that you can deal with the Tour de France in a different fashion. And you've got to come through it. Look, when Nairo can make it through the cobbles, anybody can make it through the cobbles, right? Well, not anybody. Roglic didn't. And, you look at that, once again, his wreck, if you look at and break it down, it's the motorbike's fault. I feel bad for him. I don't know what you could have done. He went down. There's not much to do there. So we'll see who wrecks tomorrow, who's still in it. Thanks, everybody.